Well, welcome to your Asian besties. Since we're all about being besties, we're going to actually do an episode on friendship and how our definition of friendship has kind of matured and evolved over the years in different phases of our lives. This was actually something that I think Ray brought up, but it's just this idea that sometimes with our friendships, it's kind of like with our partners, they can see all sides of us. The good
Mm-hmm.
and the bad and the ugly. But then sometimes with friendships, it's like this more sacred space where you kind of show your best face. You put on, the positivity, and you don't always have those difficult conversations.
Right.
And so, yeah, there might be this expectation that we only show our best, selves to our friends. But is that really realistic? Especially as we grow older and we move into other phases of our lives where we have hard things happen. We become mothers, we lose parents, we go through all of these different phases. And so, this is kind of just an open ended question to, I feel like with us, that we have a deeper level of friendship than some of my other friends, because we dive into these deeper topics and we take the time to kind of explore our different vulnerabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I'm curious. That's the question. do with it what you will.
I think,
I mean, yeah.
yeah,
Does that resonate with you? Like, do you think that's true?
that is
Yeah.
true. And I think part of it is out of respect for, well, being a mom now, like I rarely see friends anymore. Like, and a lot of my friends, like we saw each other a lot. And then now it's just everyone's lives are so busy. I think part of it is like, you don't want to be a downer. Like when you go and grab lunch with someone after like half a year, it's like, oh, what are you up to? What's new in your life, right? It stays, pretty much neutral, or like you talk about like a vacation you have coming up. So I guess for me, it's kind of like, yes, because usually, unless like something really dramatic happened that, they already know about, I don't know. I think it's like, you want like the vibes to like feel good, or it's like an
kind of like a
escape.
honeymoon phase,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. It's
Yeah.
easy to compartmentalize friendships. I think
Yeah.
you're right about that because of you're not seeing them every single day. Yeah. Do you have like an idea? Do you have like different tiers? Not tiers,
Yeah,
but like,
I do, actually.
yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Y'all are like the top tier now. But
yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, what
Great
that might
goose.
look like. It doesn't have to be a hierarchy. It's just a difference. Yeah.
It's not a hierarchy, but there are some
Yeah.
groups that are just for like hanging out together, right? Like cliques almost, because we have common things, like we're a group of moms whose kids are all the same age in class, and it's like we can relate in that way. But I'd only hang out with a select few of them in other situations, right? Like to go grab drinks or to do some art stuff. I don't know. So I definitely see tiers. Not like tears like, oh, you're better than this other person, but like vulnerability or how much I share, I guess.
What about you, Ray?
Yeah, Ray.
Well, I was just thinking, as you guys were talking, like the visuals that I see are like, I feel like there are only very small amounts of acceptable emotions and like within relationships in general, right? And why this feels important to, I guess, surface is because with my therapist, like she has seen me upset. I cry a lot. We push back on each other a little bit. I've been angry at her, and she's been disappointed in me. Well, not like 100%. I mean, because it is a client like kind of relationship, but like with parents, like I know that with my mother, I'm not allowed to express my anger either, right? So I've never really been in a situation where it was healthy for me to express conflict or disagreement or anger. And so I've never really brought that into my relationships with people. It wasn't until like my husband and we started getting more honest with each other and like getting into these conflicts and realizing actually we will survive, that I started to understand, oh, this is something that doesn't end a friendship or a relationship. And then with one of my friends in grad school, like I was so angry at him because he had wasted 30 minutes of my time. Like 30 minutes in grad school is really important because that's about as much free time I had in a week, right? And like he was like, oh, I can't find parking, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, look, you brought me here because you wanted me to help you produce your film and you can't be on time and you're making these elementary excuses. And so I blew up at him. And that was the first time I ever like yelled at a friend. And I told my therapist, and now we are really good friends. And I feel very comfortable telling him when I'm pissed off or when he's crossed a boundary. And I'm not comfortable doing this with anybody other than my husband and this friend. And in therapy, we were exploring that. And she was like, well, what was it that allowed you to be comfortable in that way? And like the first thing was, oh, well, they're both men. And she was like, okay, well, can we go deeper than that? And I was like, okay, well, I think with my friend, I realized I cared more about my needs in that moment than making him feel good or making the situation feel comfortable. Like I was expressing what I needed and that a boundary was crossed. And that's when I started to understand, oh, it's when I don't suppress my needs and my wants in a relationship that it feels really authentic. And that's why I think I will probably bring this up because we were all three were part of this conversation. But I remember in one of our meetings, I was being really insensitive about our project. And like Maryn like pulled me aside and was like, look, you know, I understand what you were dealing with and where you were coming from. And you were much kinder than this, but essentially it was, but you can't do this. Like, you can't just like be angry be like a dictator essentially and think that that's okay.
I
like
call you a dictator, but
did you?
No,
you didn't. I don't think you did. Yeah, I don't think you did.
Call you. We
no,
have
you
real
absolutely
dictators
did not.
in the world. Yeah. I wouldn't call you that.
Yes, but I felt in hindsight that what I was saying or how I was saying it was very dictatorial, and it was like my way or the highway. And so that there was safety in our relationship for you to be able to take me aside and have this honest conversation, right? That also really gave me the benefit of the doubt. And so that is also, I think, a turning point in our relationship for me anyway, where I was like, okay, she's still there after I've shown her like one of my worst sides, that she'll still be there when I, do that. And so that also gave me a lot of comfort in our relationship. And so I want to say in general that it isn't until you get to the point where you're really honest about who you are and what you want, and you realize that your friends are still there, that's really when you actually know that you guys are friends, I think. Because any other relationship is you're just having fun and you're just performing. You're just showing a side of yourself that you think is acceptable because you've always been accepted in that situation. So everything else, I think, is a performance. It's only until you are able to be completely who you are and then still feel like you belong in that relationship that it's uncovered that you guys are actually friends.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I think there's a lot of, it's like what you said. It is interesting because that was what was going through my mind. You talked about how, showing anger was with two men because, obviously I don't want to gender these conversations,
right.
But I mean, there is a difference. It's just like we live in a patriarchal society and
True.
Men can tend to be way more direct with each other. I think in their friendships, like just, in observing my husband and like the men in my life, they can kind of be rude to each other and just be like, okay, like they're just, you know,
fine.
But then among like in female friendships, it's like the expectation is different, at least in my experience, where it's like you have to be ultra it's just the expectation for women in our society is very different. True. Where it's like we have to be so lovely and compassionate and understanding and selfless, where those expectations are not, you know, put on men in the same way. So it's like if you and it's like that struggle, like Ray, what you're saying is if you in those moments you were putting your needs before, you know, just trying to keep the peace and be a people pleaser. And I think we're all recovering people pleasers, which is not all our fault. It's part of the way that we're socialized. Right. And so, yeah, that was something I had to grow into too, because I didn't grow in, you know, up in a household where we openly expressed our feelings and where I saw kind of like open conflict and then resolution. And so what I saw was you just suppress all your feelings and then you blow up like once every 5 or 10 years. You know what I mean? And I saw that pattern within myself where it's like, yeah, you know, you have friends that like do these things that constantly grate on you. And then one day it's just like, bam, like everything comes out, you know? And so I know that in myself now. That's one way that I've matured, where it's like, I don't want to get to that place. I don't want to be resentful, you know, because it tarnishes the friendship if it really matters to you. So like in that situation with you, Ray, it's like I was feeling upset and like kind of disrespected, and I'm like, but I don't want to have to hold these feelings in. And I felt safe enough, you know, and trusting enough that we could have a conversation about it. And like I said, I had empathy for you. I knew that you were stressed out about other things and it was just coming out, you know, in this way that you probably didn't intend. So I think there does have to be that sense of safety and trust there. Or if not, then you're just willing to like set a boundary and, you know, let the friendship like wither away if it, you know. But yeah, is that something that you're intentionally trying to bring into more of your friendships, or how do you view that?
I definitely don't.
Yeah.
Well, really? It's hard. It's still hard. It's like, hard. Even if you have these experiences, it's still hard because like the tendency is to just be like, oh, you know.
Yeah.
It's work.
Yeah.
It is work, I think. But it's also a two-sided thing, right? It is very vulnerable. Like, if you're like, okay, I'm going to start sharing like more like deep things with you, you know, and it like gets awkward. I don't know. It's like, why?
It's a risk. Yeah,
it's a risk. Like, why change what's working already, right? Like, we hang out like every 6 months. You know, we go do an activity together. Like, it's cool. Yeah, I don't know, because I can't think like other than like high school, college. Like, I can't think like when I've exploded on someone. I've been the kind of person. I think I've talked about this in a previous episode, but like to cut people off. Like if they really get on my nerves, or I just know I can't be authentic with them, and that's like a curation thing, right? Then it's like different trust bubbles, or
Like, do you normally ghost them, or do you have a conversation, or
ghost?
That's what it sounded like to me. You're like, I cut them off,
fade
but
away.
I just Casper the Friendly Ghost. I mean, but have you had, you don't have to obviously name any names, but have you had any examples of, you know, like situations where you might have wanted to handle things differently, or, you know, or even currently?
Yeah. So, oh gosh. Okay. Hopefully this never gets out to them, but there was this, mom who, we tried to plan this thing where our kids would walk to school together and we would switch days. And she was showing up with her kids or sending her kids over to my house later than the agreed time. And I just called her out on it via text, like, hey, you know, like, it's really hard when you do this, right? And like, to her, it wasn't a problem. I just kind of escalated, and then we just like stopped the whole thing, and we haven't talked since. But it was like weird, right? Like, and it's like, okay, like, I wish things had gone differently, that we could have had this conversation and figured out a way forward. And I think that's just kind of like, was that actually a friendship, or was it just like a matter of convenience? You know, I think some of those questions come to my head, but it was like very awkward. Because we are neighbors, you know? And it's like, now we just don't talk. Yeah, I think she took what I said one way, right? Like that her kids are a nuisance, or I'm like, no, like I literally just said, I just need you to get your kids
the standards
out on time.
The standards are different.
Yeah.
You know, because I think
the expectations.
if it was two men, they would just be like, "Oh, sorry, man," like whatever. You know,
and
but instead it's like there's all this mom guilt, or like, "Oh, you're giving me a hard time," even though you're just being very direct in a way, like just stating the facts. But yeah.
So that's the last time I tried to do that with anybody. Just kidding. How about you, Ray?
Well, I was gonna say, you know, I think part of it is being comfortable in owning your stance. And so I don't know about your situation, Leah, but when I recall similar times, I think like those interactions for me, it's like, oh, I have certain expectations, but then I'm not communicating my expectations. And I think in a previous episode, we were talking about how like, my husband, I was expecting him to read my mind because he would do that for me before we had our daughter. And that no longer worked when his brain capacity was, you know, met and full. And so I'm sort of applying the lessons that I've learned in parenting and co-parenting, that I'm trying to sort of transfer into my social relationships, because I've never been good at social relationships. And something that my therapist has taught me is she's been a model for me in a way, kind of like a training wheels for how to actually socialize in the world, and what is healthy for me and what is healthy for the other person. And I'm realizing I actually have a lot of expectations of people that I don't vocalize. And when they don't secretly meet those expectations, I just go, oh, well, they didn't meet my expectations. They don't deserve my time. And I kind of just cut people off too.
You ghost them? Do you have a conversation?
I don't necessarily ghost them, or maybe I do. Well, it's not so much ghosting. It's more of like, actually, yeah, I think it's part ghosting, like, oh, but it's not like after a confrontation, right? It's just, oh, cool. Like, it's just, I'll never contact them again for anything.
You're like, oh, cool. Bye forever.
Yes, that is ghosting, right? Yeah, that is exactly what I do.
It's ghosting.
But what I would like to do is to find the courage at some point to actually vocalize my expectation, like before we go into something, you know? But then it's kind of weird, because there was this one person who would always be late to our meetings, and I just got tired of that. And instead of saying, hey, I really don't like it when you're not on time, I just stopped talking to them. And I just wonder, what would have happened?
You just never showed up again.
No, it just, like, I never made the effort to communicate with them again.
Again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, and I mean, it's not like they did either, but I just wish I could up front be like, you know, the first time or the second time that they're late, say, I really don't like it when you're late. That actually, you know, makes me not want to hang out with you. Like, I wish I had the courage to say that rather than just cutting them off.
I mean, it does take a lot of emotional energy. Like, I think the examples you both gave are pretty common. Because I almost feel like if you're going to take that emotional energy to do something that's actually very hard for you, like,
Yeah.
for all of us, it's hard for us, then it's kind of like you're doing it because you care and you want to repair. But it is the path of least resistance. I think a lot of people just let things kind of fade away if they don't have it. Like, I have the same situation. There's kind of a common theme with all three of us, where for me, it's like someone who doesn't respect my time,
Yeah.
And that's always been a pet peeve of mine. Like, if it's something that, if someone like is really new to me and they're like flaking off the bat, like normally I don't. I'm like, I'm done. You know what I mean? But if there's something there, then I might give chances. But yeah, but I didn't necessarily like confront them on it. I'm just like, oh, I just kind of stop responding. Like, I can't keep putting myself in this situation because you're wasting my time and energy,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what are some, I guess, deal breakers? Like, how has your standards for friendship matured over the years? Even if they're secret, it's like you said, we all struggle with really being like, hey, setting our boundaries or communicating when boundaries have been crossed, but more just like your internal kind of standards of knowing like, okay, I'm kind of done here.
Definitely someone I could talk to about like my political beliefs or,
Mm-hmm.
like just
yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah.
And there are some friends, acquaintances that I don't know where they stand and I haven't, like made that move to find out. Once again, like a lot of my friends lately are like parents of, or, other, my kids' friends' parents, and then, but like the ones that I have gone along with, it's kind of like I know where they stand and I'm able to be vulnerable with them, right? And go that deeper level of real talk. So yeah, I think that's I guess it's not a deal breaker so much as in order for me to be honest, like I need to know that they can see or that we share, a similar viewpoint, especially for like the big things that matter.
Mm-hmm.
I guess for like relationships too, but
yeah, I agree with that too, because it's like whether they're a safe space or not.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just like whether you feel that you can be, that they're I don't know, that they have your best interests at heart.
Yeah.
Like
pretty much. I mean,
you know what I mean? It's like it's a very real thing now. Like, it's hard to avoid.
Yeah, and time's precious. Like, we want to spend time with people who, like get us, not.
It's very true.
Need to spend the mental energy trying to convince them otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have a pretty good friend who we do not share the same political beliefs whatsoever. And sometimes that does make it really challenging because it's hard to not see. Because oftentimes when they don't share my political beliefs, I feel like I have my political beliefs because they keep me safe and they keep my family safe physically, psychologically, mentally, emotionally, like everything. And so when I see somebody who doesn't have the same political beliefs that actively tries to take those safeties away from me and my family, I feel very threatened. Mm-hmm. And I am like, in my mind, it's screaming at me like they don't want you to be safe. But then I have to sort of override that and say, but if we're in a situation where there's like a nuclear situation, right? I do trust that this person is going to send me a text or is going to check in on me to see if my family and I are safe, right? Or if like, they have some water they can share and we don't, I can still ask them to share it, right? So it's like there are these political ideologies that were diametrically opposed, But when push comes to shove and we're actually in a situation, I don't think that those political beliefs are going to take that person's humanity away, in seeing me as a human and actually caring about me. Like, I don't know if you've seen this on the news, but there's a town somewhere in the Midwest where ICE came for this Asian mom. And this entire community, they had voted for the Republican Party. And when ICE took her away, the Asian mom, they were like, they were only supposed to take away criminals and blah, 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 and not everyday people. And now that whole town is rallying against this because they see that it's very unfair. So that's one instance where politically they have different views, but in reality, when push comes to shove and they're seeing that their community members are being taken away, people that they actually care about, that humanity returns, because that had always been there. And so, it's like, I think about those political beliefs as like deal breakers, but if you're able to see that they are human and they actually do care, not just performatively, I think it's no longer a deal breaker. But I think you really have to have a deep relationship with that person. If I meet some MAGA person on the street right now, no, I'm not going to put any of my time into developing a relationship with them because, it's so crazy right now. But I think a deal breaker for me right now is, it's always been time. If they don't appreciate my time, or if they don't value that I need to meet my own needs and wants, and that it actually does take me a lot of time and effort and energy to socialize. And if they don't respect that's a really big deal breaker for me. So, friendship is weird.
Wouldn't you say that political beliefs are a proxy to values? Because I think when you're telling that story about the Midwest city, it sounds like, right, they realized that their political beliefs didn't actually align with what they valued, which is probably the case for like a lot of people, right, who have taken a stance, who are like, yes, this is what I'm fighting for. And then, right, that humanity aspect is that. How do you reconcile that, though? Because I guess when I hear, like, the reason, like, I feel it's a deal breaker for me is that it very much feels like someone is actively opposing what I believe in, and it is hard for me to see past that, because I'm like, well, you're literally representing everything that's counter to what I hold, near and dear to my heart, or what I believe in, right? Like, I believe in equality. I believe that everyone should be treated fairly. I believe that, you can't claim, like, a country that you also immigrated to, like, however many years ago. Like, I think it's that, so I guess that's why I'm still like, I don't know how you reconcile that, but I think that's where I feel challenged to do so.
So valid. Yeah, what you're saying is so valid. And so relatable. And I think one thing I can think of is an example of, I used to be the acting director of this, of a university's department / program institute type thing. And I was very much like, there's only one way that this curriculum can be executed, and I would only see it my way because I couldn't see any other way that it would make sense. And I think getting in the details is too much background. And so I was very much like siloed in my way of thinking. And then eventually we had this meeting and everybody started sharing that there were alternative ways to achieve those things. And I started to realize, okay, maybe I'm wrong. It took me a long time in hindsight to realize I was wrong. And I think one thing that I'm seeing here with like the political values, it's like, I think ultimately, we do want humanity, and we want certain, like, we value very similar things, like fiscal responsibility and like caring about people and productivity. And I think we do have similar values, but I think that the ways of achieving those things are very different.
Got it.
For multiple political parties, I think. But then I think what's different, I think in this, like in the past 10 years, is that particularly the Republican Party is no longer the Republican Party. It sort of is like now, I don't know why I'm like shy to say all these things, but like now they're racist, and now they're like openly racist, right? Like, I don't know if you guys know, but like Trump recently like erected 2 flagpoles, but they are each exactly 88 feet tall, and 88 is like the dog whistle for Nazis, right? It's like Heil and then the H name, right? Like, and then other things are like, Trump waited 14 minutes before he actually came out and gave his speech after the election results were, and the number 14 is a very specific reference to the white supremacist movement. So it's just like, there's just so much that I think, like, if you are MAGA, like, I think you've been fed a lot of propaganda by this party that claims to have these Christian values, but actually they don't. And so I'm kind of going off on a tangent because every time I talk about this, I get really upset. But before MAGA was openly racist and like all that stuff, I do think that the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, they had similar values, but they had different ways of achieving it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think with MAGA, I do sort of draw the line, but
okay, that clarifies. Okay, yeah, like when we were talking about Republican like politics today, I was specifically talking about like, no, they're pretty clear about what they value and do not value. But yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, and there's a lot of disinformation out there,
Oh, true.
Yeah, that's a whole nother piece of it too.
Yeah.
And propaganda and just straight out lies.
Yeah, I mean, the story you told about that town, like, that's a lovely story, but that's also not always the case.
Right.
So I think we have to be vigilant, and there's just a lot of disinformation, misinformation, but like, to me, someone who's really a true friend is interested in your lived experience, even if their experience is different. And so I think that can sometimes be coming from a place of privilege, just to be like,
true.
Oh, we can have different political beliefs or values, but because it doesn't really affect you, then you don't really care. So it just depends, what your experience is and in our society, and how much that matters. Like, like in this moment with the ICE raids and families being split apart, it's like, if someone is just telling you, well, you should just be here legally, or, they're saying that to you when this is happening to your community or your loved one or your spouse, then obviously that's a whole different story. So I think it has to be balanced. It's like, it's nice to have some compassion or empathy, but you also have to be very vigilant and realistic about, because there's plenty of people that think that they're nice and think that they don't see color and they're not racist, but they are also complicit because they don't educate themselves, and their actions or their vote enables, this type of behavior and the oppression of people like us. So, or our loved ones. Yeah. So it's, because I tend to be on Leah's side. I mean, it is hard when you have an existing relationship, whether it's family or it's an already good friend, and you are trying to maintain that in some way despite that, But yeah, it can be very complicated. I mean, I think for me, in terms of coming back to friendship, like it has to be someone who I have less energy for just showing the happy face. And all,
Oh, yeah.
I spent so many years of my life just being the fun, generous, people pleasing friend that, wanted to be popular and all this stuff. Like, I don't have the time and energy for that anymore, and it's not really authentic to who I am. So, I guess that's where I see the limitation sometimes in my friendships, where I'm like, oh, if you can't hold space for my true feelings, which might make you uncomfortable or be hard to hear, whatever it is, then it's not really worth it to me. Like those types of interactions don't really fulfill me. I'm not in my party era anymore. Like, I don't need to fake it to make it. Like, I have enough good friends, and like you said, we're all busy and we want our time to be valued. So yeah, if I don't have friends that are not only there for me in the good moments, but also the hard moments, then to me, that's not a true friendship. It's just, I mean, I use the term loosely, like, oh, my friend. I have a lot of acquaintances and whatever, but like true friends, like my mom always said, you can usually count just on one hand, or maybe two, that you can really invest and be there for them in those moments. There's only so much time. Yeah. So we kind of talked about the deal breakers, but are there any, like, what are the qualities that you do look for, like when you look at your closest friends now? Like, what matters to you?
I think what you said here, Maryn, about like the humanity and like being able to make time for not just their good sides, but also, be there in be there for them in their time of need. I think that's really important. Like for me, like I have a lot of important dates on my phone to remind me, right? Like, Maryn, your mom's passing, like that's on my calendar. Like there are things that, because my brain can't remember things, like that I make the time to create systems to remind me of things that are hard or challenging for like my friends or people that I care about. I think people who do that for me, like that's who I would consider a good friend, is they know when challenging things, and maybe it's not just like days, right? Or like times of the year, but I don't know, like I don't know if this is an example, but I know that Leah really likes Taylor Swift, right? And not just like she enjoys her music, but she cares about what she stands for. She sees like the poetic. She sees what is the noun form? Poem like. I mean, she sees her as an artist and like as somebody who's a really good um, expresser of emotions, and just there's a lot of artistry there. And so, whenever I think about Taylor Swift, I think of Leah. And when I see a piece that talks about those types of things, I like send it to Leah. And I mean, that's
It's
just like
true.
a tiny example, right? But like, I think that people who think about me because of things that I care about or things that I value or things that I'm interested in, those are like deal makers, I guess. Like I have one friend, I've never met her in person, but she'll like, when she's on a thread or in a conversation and she thinks that I have something to say or have an opinion about it, she'll add me to the conversation or she'll send me the post. Or someone will read a book and they'll be like, oh, you said this thing a couple years ago and I remembered this. And I think this was an answer to a question that you asked. Here, I read this. Send it to me. Like those things make me cry like all the time. It's like, oh, they're actually thinking about me, or I've become part of their memory in some kind of, it doesn't have to be in a huge grand way.
Yeah.
But they are thinking about me, What about you guys?
Do you want to go first, Maryn?
Leah, I feel like I already kind of went, so you go.
Yeah.
I would say that, yes, and I think people you can share your dreams with. Like, I think I've told both of you, you know, like the projects I want to work on, right? And I don't just tell anybody that because is also vulnerability.
Sure.
And I've encountered this before where people will like knock it down or be like, really? Like, you think you can do that? And it's like, if I'm going to share that with you, I'd rather you support me than not. So yeah, I would say like someone who knows your interests and your heart.
Like your brewery.
Yes, my brewery, where it's going to open in Oceanside in 20 years from now. And / coffee shop / bakery / book.
Art center.
Craft night.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah. People you can, be open about that. Actually, yeah, because I think, and when we're talking about hierarchies, I think that's a little easier, still vulnerable, but a little easier than like hitting a boundary is something like, sharing more of you or being more seen by someone else and hoping that's reciprocated. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's how friendships are formed. It's like you kind of dip your toes in and you're like, can they hold space for this? Yeah. Can they hold space for that? And it's unfortunate that it is sort of a rare thing that someone really has your best interests at heart and they can be there for you, like without jealousy and without, ulterior motives. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a trope, right? Is like the cattiness that can happen among women, or this scarcity feeling like, oh, if you have it good, then that means I can't have it good, you know? And so, I mean, I've experienced that from people that are very close to me, like one of my oldest friends from middle school, like, I just know that I've always felt from her the energy that like, she's always happy for me, like just very in a pure way. And it's a very rare thing, like without the jealousy and everything else. So I think when you find that
way about you, Maryn, like, I think you're always genuinely happy for me. And
same.
Like right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have that going on. Maybe we should talk about ourselves and our friendship.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Next
I think
episode.
it's been very healing to do this podcast because
same.
I think we're kind of able, I mean, I don't know how intentional it is, but just because of our friendship as the foundation, like we're able to model this type of behavior where it's like we've talked about some of the most vulnerable, traumatic things on this podcast, from like birth stories to bullying to loss and grief. And I think being able to hold that space for each other and to, without judgment, and to even like gently, encourage us to look at things in a different way, or to be like, maybe you're being too hard on yourself, like taking that time is really important. Because I feel like sometimes the things that we are judging in others, right, it's an inside job. It's because we're being ultra critical of ourselves, or we're being too hard on ourselves. And that's like a big problem for women and moms. It's like we're so overloaded. And so any type of feedback feels like a criticism because you're already trying to do so much.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But it's this expectation that you should be able to, and you should be perfect kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like we have a lot to overcome in that respect, because it's just the idea of like a mom or a woman having needs is not really an encouraged thing in our society, like especially as a mom. It's like you're so easily, people will be like, oh, you're selfish, or you're a bad mom because you want to do something for yourself, or you need 5 minutes of peace. And so there's a lot of hurdles there, but I feel very grateful that we have each other and we have this space.
For sure.
So I think it's helped me to own my own, like what you're talking about, owning your own values, like owning my own values, my own identity, and being kind of stronger the more we support each other. Because if you're not really vocalizing your needs or your values, it's very easy to kind of just, you might be ghosting other people, but you're also kind of ghosting yourself. Like you're not making it clear.
Deep.
Yeah.
I like
you
that.
know what I mean? I'm telling you, it all comes around. It's always so meta. But It's true, but I think because we piggyback on each other and we're like, oh no, this is like a real issue. This is very valid. Like,
That's true. It's very
yeah, then
affirming.
it's,
Like, I'm not
yeah,
the only one thinking this,
exactly.
right? Or
Validating.
you gain new perspectives of like, oh, but I didn't see it that way either. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's very easy to gaslight yourself because society gaslights women and moms all the time.
That's going to be a
You know?
quote, social media quote.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so it's like, yeah, having these safe spaces like kind of gives, I think, all of us the confidence more to be able to set boundaries, to vocalize more when things are not right, or we feel that we were disrespected, or, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, any other final thoughts on friendship? How should we wrap up?
Has to be like advice, like how do other people find a friendship like ours? Like,
you know, it takes vulnerability. I think it kind of takes, because both of you, we reconnected. Like, Ray was an elementary school friend, Leah was my college roommate, but we reconnected because I started a blog. I think from both of you. Yeah. So it kind of takes like putting yourself out there a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think my motto has always been, you know, initially I'm very open. Like, I'm an open person. I'm very friendly. I'm very generous. Like, that's kind of my first step with people. And so if someone's being rude to me or disrespecting me based on that, I'm like, oh, you're done. You know what I mean?
But I
like
try to level one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have that many walls up. Like, I'm very open to making connections and things like that. So I feel like kind of being open and having that vulnerability and being okay with like sharing more parts of you, like personal parts of you, you'll have a better chance of, you know, attracting people that resonate on that same level.
Yeah, totally. And I would just say teasing. I think teasing is important because it shows that it's like, I acknowledge that you might have this shortcoming, but we love you anyway.
Yes.
And I just think it's so funny because you guys know that I deflect a lot and you guys are always teasing me about this.
I'm
and
like, I hope I'm like, you must be talking
like,
about us. Because I was about to say like, it's a Scorpio thing to say.
Part of it is it's annoying because you guys are constantly calling me out on a shortcoming. But also, it's like, we know you do it, but it's accepted here. So it's also validating. So it cancels each other out.
We see you. And
well, it was one of our goals.
And you should speak up. If we ever like tease too much, then you should call us out on it, because that's what a true friend would do.
I'll have like a middle finger like picture here somewhere.
Yeah, like flip us off. And
yes. What about you, Leah?
I mean, I think you all summed it up well. Yeah, I mean, it is a lot of work, and I think it's finding those bright spots in other people. You're like, okay, like, I mean, I met you, Ray, because you and Maryn had Metastate Movement, and you ended up visiting me for an interview. And that was because, Maryn, you're like, oh, like, we, you know, like, see things similarly, or, you know, like, we have, these beliefs. And then, you know, like, if I didn't put myself out there either, then we wouldn't have known that. So I think a lot of it is to be your authentic self, to like start to cultivate that voice in you if you haven't already. And and then you'll start to attract people who see, you know, see similar things. I want everyone to have friendships like this. I think it's so powerful.
Yeah, definitely. I wish we had like a cheers when I can drink champagne again.
Oh, I was like an emoji. No, you like literally meant champagne.
Like literally.
Yeah, all I'm drinking is water and vitamin water. Okay, well, this was a nice episode. We know there's a lot of crazy stuff happening in the world, but I think in spite of that, you know, they say joy and rest. Of course, it's a privilege, but it's also an act of resistance. And so holding on to the people and things that sustain you and give you life is really important, you know, during these times. So I'm sure we'll tackle all the the trash fire going on in future episodes. But
don't let it taint this one.
Yeah, to celebrate our friendship in this one. So thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Bye.